young? Or am I faking on the tip of my tongue? There's a sarcasm waiting for you. I'm willing to trade my soul for a bit of your charm. There's no way I'll fade into oblivion, 'cause I'll keep shining over you all. And if your wings entwining, you better face the fall, keep trying again. Oh yeah, keep trying again. There's mud on the floor, disparate people trying to get through the door, although the room's already crowded. But I'll keep shining over you all. And if your wings entwining, you better face the fall, keep trying again. Oh yeah, keep trying again. Zeros, everybody's trying to be heroes, when all they have to say to be okay is I don't know. And keep trying again. I'll keep shining over you all. With your wings entwining, you better face the fall. Zero, everybody's trying to be heroes, when all they have to say to be okay is I don't know. Are you okay? I'm not that sure.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome here to Talladega Superspeedway as it plays host to races 5 and 6 of the 5th season of the UpperEdge Racing Baadteshop Superspeedway Series. You heard right, 2 races for the price of 1. It's the duels at Talladega here this evening as we get ready to kick things off with the Fly Goose Fly 80. 30 laps around this 2.66 mile super speedway. They'll take a little bit of an intermission and then get ready for another 30 lap dash. This is also the first race in the dash for Dong, where the drivers here this evening, 4 of them eligible, are going to be battling not only for a checkered flag, but also for the 42.50 USD value prize on the line. Also, the race winners of tonight's 2 events will be eligible for the second Dash for Dong race later on here on the schedule. But it should be a good one this evening. We've seen during the course of this season 4 races, 4 different drivers have gone to victory lane, but they've had a lengthy amount of time to be able to strategize and work their way up to the front. Tonight, it's going to be a sense of urgency. We're basically taking a full-length race that we've seen in the last month or so, and we're splitting it in half, so these drivers are going to have to work their way to the front and stay at the front a lot sooner than they would normally in races past. Big field here tonight. A lot of drivers would like to be that 5th driver to go to victory lane. I believe 2 of our former winners are not in the field here this evening, so the odds of a different winner all the more greater, and we may have 2 different winners by the close of this evening. Drivers gritting up here on the front straightaway right at the start finish line. That's going to be an interesting point of note here tonight as well. Talladega Superspeedway, of course, completely different from any other superspeedways we run this season. At Daytona, the start finish line is right in the center of the tri-oval. At iRacing Superspeedway, the start finish line is right in the middle of the front straightaway. And at Atlanta Superspeedway, which I believe we are going to be at in a couple of weeks' time, it got swapped with iRacing Superspeedway last week for the schedule slot. I think we're actually going to Atlanta next week, if I recall correctly. Their start finish line, of course, is right in the middle of the tri-oval as well. That extra few hundred feet here at Talladega could play a huge difference maker into who's going to be the winner and who is going to be runner up. As we look here at the starting lineup for this first duel, how about Benjamin White making his first start on the season, and he's going to nab the pole position alongside of Carl Faust in the number 12. You got lining up in the second row DJ Stagner in the 64, and he's alongside of Ty Smith, who's back behind the wheel of the number 18 this week. We know there are a couple of drivers filling in for drivers that weren't able to make it here tonight. One of the notables is the number 31 is under the driver of, I believe, Dylan Body. He's filling in for Dylan Poteet, who's a former winner on the season and the current points leader coming into this race. So it'll be interesting to see what Dylan is able to do if Poteet by the end of tonight will still be the points leader. Remember, that's 2 races tonight that Poteet is not starting. As we look here through the remainder of the top 10, Steve Rada, he's been very consistent the last couple of weeks. Joey Chapman, he shows really good qualifying speed, but looking for it to translate to good race speed. Bronson Stafford, they're rolling off from the 12th position. He's one of the 4 drivers that comes into this race in the dash for Dong eligibility. Of course, getting second place back in the first race of the season is what has him eligible, since Matt Muir, who won the season opener, is not in the field here tonight. Blake Trawick, who won race number 2, Mike Tellier, who won last week's race, they are eligible. You see Tellier rolling off from the 15th position, and Andy Siegel finished runner-up back in race 3 to Dylan Poteet. With Poteet not being in the field, Andy Siegel is eligible in the dash for Dong here tonight. So Stafford, Trawick, Siegel, and Tellier, highest finisher of those 4, will end up taking home the $42.50 prize. But here we go, getting ready for our first of 2 dual races here tonight at Talladega. The Fly Goose Fly 80 is green. Now, this is not the first time that we've had dual races at Daytona in a Baadteshop Superspeedway Series season. It is going to be interesting to follow the storyline that we saw culminate the last time we had dual races here at Dega, in the fact that they can make it the full 30 laps on what they've got in the tank, but they cannot go full throttle for all 30 circuits. They will have to save to make it the full scheduled distance. We've seen drivers run the strategy of coming to pit road about 10-15 laps into the run, taking on that little splash of fuel they need to get to the end, then gunning it to the checkered flag. We'll see if anybody follows that strategy here tonight, or if they're all going to try and make it the 30 circuits on what they've started this race with. Is look at this racing 3 wide, 2-3 rows deep at the very beginning. Top side is going to be Joey Chapman. He's going to get spun by Stafford right down in front of Benjamin White and Carl Faust. That did not take long. Turn 1, lap 2, and we've got about a half dozen drivers pretty well torn up, with an incident starting right at the front of the field. Looks like Blake Trawick, one of our Dash for Dong drivers, a former winner on the season. A lot of front-end damage on the Moo Mobile there. There's another car I see down to the inside. He's got a lot of damage there. That's the 83 of Sebastian Miller. Looks like Sean Billman is well caught up. Oh, man, pretty good damage as well on the Hot Wheels number 23 of DeRosers. So a number of drivers with damage here. Doesn't necessarily look like at first glance anybody would have to take on the fast repair as of yet. But then again, looks could be deceiving, and somebody may end up having to take that mulligan less than 5 laps into this first dual race. And this happened right up at the very front of the field. It looked like from first glance, maybe an errant bump of Stafford to Joey Chapman. Let's see. Ooh, hard to tell there. Stafford was definitely on the back bumper of the 60, and he hooks down left into Benjamin White. There's DeRosa's getting involved. Number of others, Roberto Ramirez in the 42 on the inside there, kind of a parking lot on the apron. Treywick was down there, so was Sebastian Miller. So a number of drivers that might have been able to get through had the wreck not migrated down the banking to the apron. Now with some damage in the early stages. Here's on board with Bronson Stafford, and it's hard to tell there if maybe there was contact or maybe just took the air off of that spoiler, and with the 60 getting loose, comes down into the right front of Benjamin White and Carl Faust. That 3 wide for the race lead, going horribly, horribly wrong here in the beginning stages of this race. So that's going to change the landscape of the drivers up at the front of the field, as obviously fourth place on back will probably be up inside of the top 5 now. Here's another look, and we'll see if there is any visible contact. It almost looks like there wasn't any contact there between the 60 and the 61. They're very close, the front bumper to the back bumper, but from that vantage point, with the slow-mo camera, it almost looks like the 60 just got loose and wasn't able to hang on to it and comes down into the middle and inside line of that 3 wide formation. So tough break there, obviously, for Joey Chapman. Mentioned it there. He's been so good when it comes to qualifying, always usually up in the top 5, if not on the front row. Just does not seem to be able to have that translate to good luck in the finishing results, as we're on board here with the 55. That's Daniel Megason, one of our rookies, and you just see nowhere to go. Usually at a super speed, with a safe place to go is down to the apron or down to the grass, but everybody had the same idea, and when the 60 slid down onto the apron, it completely blockaded up those extra 2 lanes of being able to try to avoid the wreck, and a lot of drivers end up running into the back of each other. Here's on board now with Cole DeRosa, another of our rookies here this season. He's up on the top side. If he stays up here on the high side, he might have been fine, but unfortunately, the 12 of Carl Faust was kind of parked in that outside line after he was involved in the 3 wide situation at the front of the field. So, not much of an avenue for anybody to be able to avoid the wreck, whether they went to the top or to the bottom of the racetrack. And you got to wonder, a lot of the contact made here with the front end of these race cars, where the radiator is housed. Obviously, a lot of aerodynamics comes into play with the nose of the race car when it comes to super speedway racing. Not sure with manual repairs how much damage they can actually fix for them to be still competitive here for the remainder of this one. That was on board with the 12 of Carl Faust, and you saw the 17 of Steve Rada just barely sneaking through there. So he might have been one of the few that went down to the inside line that got through relatively unscathed with minimal to no damage. But everybody else on back, not quite as lucky. So as the flagman still has the caution waving, now over the hood of Jacob Holm, our new race leader in the 76. Looks like we've gotten the 1 degree indication here. You see the drivers either right up to the wall or right down next to the yellow line, indicating which lane they choose for the choose cone. Holm will take the bottom of the racetrack here, and he'll be the one that will get us back under green. Ty Smith elected the top, so he will be the outside of the front row. You take a look at the temperatures that we're dealing with here in Talladega, Alabama. A far cry from what these drivers were dealing with when we were iRacing Super Speedway last week. They had triple-digit track temperature, but as we're kind of in the dusk, almost twilight hours here, the track temperature, only a mild 76 degrees, may continue to warm up as these drivers run green flag laps, but you have to think that a little bit cooler temperature means a little bit of added grip and maybe a little bit more maneuverability for for these drivers. Certainly not going to call into question, I don't think, what we were talking about last week with the inability to be able to push for a long period of time for fear of the engine overheating. They should be able to tandem a lot longer here at Dega than they did at iRacing SS last week. As we take a look back at the field from the HMR 2014 Tamarin pace car, Holm on that inside line, Ty Smith on the outside line. Jacob Holm, another driver who this season always seems to be running well in the first half of the race, and then something happens where he gets caught up in a wreck. He doesn't have any fast repairs to fall back on, and the finishes that we see the 76 get at the end of the day do not indicate the amount of speed that he has had during the course of the entire event. He's going to have Ty Smith to his outside. Robert Kenny's going to line up on the inside of row number 2. To his outside, the 81 of Connor Holden, and then it's going to be the 46 of Brandon Lambert, who we saw very strong last time out at iRacing Superspeedway, completing the top 5, getting ready to go back green. They'll look to complete at least 2 laps of green flag here, as we only made it about 1 lap and 1 turn before the first caution flew. Good jump there for the M&M's Ford Mustang of Jacob Holm. We'll see if he's able to keep Robert Kenny at bay. Looks like on the top side there, a couple of teammates going to get nose to tail, the 18 and the 81. And right behind them is going to be the 72, That is Matthew Rodriguez doing the sub duties tonight for Matt Muir, former winner on the season, who is not in the field here tonight. And that top line, Robert Kenny stuck in the sucker hole. It's going to be Ty Smith with a big push from Connor Holden, who is going to go to the point. Not quite clear on that inside line, but he'll try and side draft the 76 off of turn 4. Little loose in that middle line for both those Chevrolets, and so the top side with Matthew Rodriguez gets a good run. 3 wide around the 3rd, 4th position. Steve Rada on the inside of that 3 wide formation as top 2, Holm and Lambert, clear on the bottom of the racetrack going into turn number 1. Looks like a couple more drivers have jumped up to that outside line. You got the 6 up there of Chad Winstead, Mike Tellier, who took the checkers last week at iRacing Superspeedway. Because of that victory for Mike Tellier, and I keep saying it, but it's true, the unorthodox point system here for the Baadteshop Superspeedway Series, Tellier jumped up 10 spots in the standings from 15th to 5th, only 44 points out of the points lead, and has a shot maybe here tonight if he's able to go back-to-back of heading into the 2nd Dega duel as the new points leader. See a lot of those drivers down that inside line clipping the apron. Rada and Miller and Dylan Body all clipping just below the yellow line there. Remember, we have to bear this in mind for both of our dual races. That yellow line is only a suggestion of where the out of bounds is. These drivers, if they chose, could go down there to advance their position, as Mike Tellier looks like he might have brushed the wall right there. A little smoke off the right rear fender off of turn 2. That's going to allow the 11 of Benjamin White, our pole sitter, to tuck up in line. Doesn't look like they did a whole lot of damage repair on the pole sitter. You can see he's got a pretty good bit of damage on the left front of the JBL Toyota Camry. But for the moment, looks like that thing is still up to speed. Wouldn't win a beauty contest, but still fast enough to get up to the front of the field, as we're 3 wide for the race lead and 2 rows deep once again. Ty Smith running the middle line, Holm on the bottom, and Matthew Rodriguez, high, wide, and handsome, leading the charge in that 3rd lane. He's got them alongside of 2nd place with Holden in the middle and Lambert on the bottom. You saw a lot of movement right there with that close-up shot on that middle car of Holden and that topside car of Rodriguez. A lot of space here at Talladega, especially when they're 3 wide, but when they're side to side like this in the corners, usually they end up arguing over the same amount of space, and that's where we end up having the contact and the corner wrecks. But for now, they give all the room necessary to keep it together. Looks like that third line is stalled out just a bit. And there you see Bronson Stafford on the apron through the trioval, utilizing the fact that that is considered inbounds. But will he be able to get back up is the question. Does not look like it. He wasn't clear on Dylan Body, and a move that could have gained him 2 or 3 spots is now going to lose him anywhere from 6 to 8 spots as he had to back out of the throttle. He's still running the apron through 1 and 2, and he's going to drift all the way back to the tail end of this lead pack. The ultimate risk versus reward does not pan out there for Bronson Stafford, but hey, we're only 10 laps into this 30-lap dash. Why not do a little experimentation, see if you can make the pass and complete it? In the early stages, squirrel that away for maybe later on in this race when you're trying to be that first one back to the start-finish line through the trioval in that extra few hundred feet from the center of the trioval over to the entrance of turn number 1. Not liking all the movement we're seeing up here at the front of the field as Holm continues to lead the inside line around. Ty Smith committed to that middle groove with Connor Holden. Mike Tellier third in that outside line. Brandon Lambert is the drafting help on the inside line along with the 17 of Steve Rada. And now a third lane starts to form once again. This time it's going to be the number 33 that's going to make the jump up there to the top. That's rookie Dustin Longston. Looks like he's got Benjamin White up there for drafting help. And right behind him is going to be the 32. That is Robert Panko doing the sub duties for John Poole III here tonight. The usual livery that we're used to seeing him in the number 4, but with the number 32 on the sides and roof of that Toyota. So we've got 3 sub drivers here tonight for 3 drivers that have been very much up in the conversation of winning every single week. Dylan Poteet not in the race, Matt Muir not in the race, and John Poole III not in the race. Also bears mentioning that these drivers are allowed 2 subs during the course of the season. Tonight we have 2 races, so all 3 of those drivers that I just mentioned that have had to call on substitutes tonight, they will be heading into the remainder of the season with no substitutes available. They will have to show up every week to be able to garner points. And for a few of those drivers that are way up there in the standings, like Dylan Poteet, obviously leading the points, obviously Matt Muir, a former winner, 9th in the point standings, they're going to have to make sure they don't miss out on any more races or any more points for the conclusion of this season. Checking in on our Dash for Dong drivers, it looks like the highest running of those currently, I believe according to our scoring, would be I believe it's Mike Tellier, the former winner from last week, but he's not even up here inside of the top 10. The other drivers quite a ways back there. Blake Trawick has got damage from the first and only incident we've had so far here tonight, currently back in 20th. Andrew Siegel doesn't look like he's anywhere up towards the front right now. Looking for the 5, and I don't see him at least anywhere here in this lead pack. Actually, I don't think he's in the field, so it may only have been 3 drivers that were battling for the Dash for Dong here tonight. And then Bronson Stafford, we saw him fade to the back after he tried to make that move on the apron, and he's currently scored last car on the lead lap back in the 23rd position. Looks like a couple of drivers out of the race here. 23 of DeRoser and the 55 of Daniel Megason. Both those drivers currently scored 10 laps down, involved in that first wreck. Not certain if they didn't know they had the faster pair available or not, but they are going to not have very good points totals here, as I believe it's only the top 15 that end up getting a minimum of 10 points, and then the rest of the field either gets 5 or 0, depending on where they finish. That's why we have drivers leap up through the point standings when they win or finish inside of the top 5. Well, Jacob Holm looks like his strategy is just hug that yellow line. A lot of drivers have gone to the middle line to the third lane to try and bypass him, and he's turned back all challengers. Now he's got Carl Faust in that middle line and Connor Holden leading the third lane, but Holm has done a good job of just staying committed to the bottom, letting everything culminate above him. Drivers end up losing momentum, they lose drafting partners, but usually you're always going to have somebody behind you if you run on the very bottom, the very inside of the racetrack, the shorter way around this super speedway. And right now he's got Ty Smith as his wingman, as Ty was able to slot in between the 76 and the 46 of Brandon Lambert. Now you've got Faust with help from Benjamin White in that middle line. And the outside line is Connor Holden, who's been able to pick up the 06 of Sean Billman. Look at the momentum there from our aerial shot down the back straightaway of that third lane. Rodriguez, Treywick, Ramirez, all able to draft right up to the back of the 06. You've now got 5 cars on the top, 5 cars in the middle, and about 6 cars down on the bottom, as Ty Smith very loose there on the bottom of 3 and 4, and now he'll slide up in front of Carl Faust to lead that middle line. Halfway home here in the first of our 2 dual races here tonight. A reminder, we've got 2 for the price of 1. We'll be bringing you coverage of the second duel here at Dega. Right following after the conclusion of this one, we'll be having a post-race wind down, talking with the podium finishers from this first dual race, and then we'll step aside for a little bit of time as drivers will have a little bit of extra practice in preparation for the second dual race, and then we'll be right back with the coverage right here on FRN on the YouTube side, split second broadcasting on the Twitch side. As how about Ty Smith? That move to the middle got him to the lead. He immediately jumps down to the inside line. And for the first time tonight, ever since the restart, we've got a new driver out in front, not named Jacob Holm, who slots into the second spot. We'll also see here if anybody is going to be able to roll the dice in terms of pit strategy, because remember, I recall correctly, last time we ran the duels at Dega, the first dual race went caution free, but this one's not going to. We had a caution back on lap 2, and we've got a caution on lap 18. I shouldn't have talked about green flag runs. The commentator's curse is struck, and it swept up a lot of good cars that have been running up at the front the entirety of this race ever since the restart. Steve Rada there in the 17 stuck on the banking. Brandon Lambert in the 46 with a lot of damage. Looks like maybe some left front damage on the 48 of Cody Lamas, making his first start on the night. There's rear damage on the 42 of Roberto Ramirez. I was going to talk about the fact I thought that since we'd had that one caution, that maybe that was the couple of laps short drivers would have been, that they would have been able to top off the fuel tank and make it the rest of the way. Now, there's no doubt about it. If they came to pit road, they would probably be able to make it the rest of the way. But unfortunately, we're going to have a number of drivers coming down pit road for a reason they weren't planning on, and that would be damage repair. Another incident up at the front, and this one's going to start with the 11 of our pole sitter, Benjamin White. It looks like he thought he was clear to come down and lead the middle lane, and just the front and back bumper on the 11 and the 12 hook each other. It sends him down the track. That was a big hit for Brandon Lambert. And how about the 33 and the 17 catching some air there? Look at the tether on the right front of Steve Rada, as that wheel wanted to come off of the race car, but I think the tether kept it attached. Big hits for Steve Rada. Same for the 33 of Dustin Longston. And that was almost Ryan Blaney-esque with the right rear turning of the 46 of Brandon Lambert straight up into the outside wall. Fortunately, there's a safer barrier there. Look at this right there. Big hit. Connor Holden actually caught some air as well. The entire left front of his machine came off the racing surface. Looks like DJ Stagner was able to get through, as he was just behind that. He was able to dive into the grass, but another corner wreck, and those are the toughest, especially at a track like Talladega, to avoid, because you don't know if the car is going to slide up the banking or down the banking. Look at that. That's almost a roller coaster-esque ride for Connor Holden. But I love when we have these in-car shots, when you're able to see the steering wheel. You noticed that thing had 2 wheels off the ground, and he never stopped driving it. As soon as it got turned back the right direction, he grabbed a gear and kept going. These drivers, a lot of times they'll take the hands off the steering wheel, but a lot of times also they'll just continue to drive it. Look at this. Watch the wheel motion. Turns it left, turns it right. All right, it's pointed the right direction. Let's just keep going. Carl Faust with a great save right in front of him as well. That is amazing to me, the fact that you don't even have your Goodyears touching the road and you're still driving the race car. You might as well be piloting a plane at that point in time. But these drivers know that usually, if you can drive out of a wreck, depending on how much damage you sustain, you might be okay and might not have to take on that faster pair. Drive away from the wreck while it's in progress and don't get any more damage than you already have. Man, there you saw that shot for Brandon Lambert straight up into the wall, and then the follow-up hit for Connor Holden. A lot of big hits taken in that one. The 33, the 17, the 46, the 81. You gotta think all those drivers listed are gonna probably have to take on the faster pair, but we are more than halfway here in this duel, so maybe now is the time. Here's Lambert. Everything's fine until he gets hooked in the right recorder panel, and that is such a helpless feeling because there's just absolutely nothing that you did wrong, just wrong place, wrong time. Other drivers right there involved that we didn't know. The 32 of Robert Panko got involved, as you saw him down against the inside wall, so a couple more innocent victims collected up in this one, as I think it's safe to say the big one, number 2, strikes here in dual race number 1. Well, this will allow everyone to make it the rest of the way on fuel if they elect to come to pit road. Maybe they were a little short and they want to keep their track position. They could probably clutch under these pacing laps to save that extra lap or two of fuel that they were lacking. And now the old adage of cautions breed cautions may be more prevalent than ever, because with the security of knowing you can reach the rest of the scheduled distance on what you've got in the tank, now the pay window is open. It's less than 10 to go for this upcoming restart. And we've seen 3 wide all the way through the field on a number of occasions already in the first 20 laps. We're probably going to see a lot more drivers pull the Bronson Stafford move of utilizing below that double yellow line here in this final run to the checkers. Remember, if you don't win this race, you've still got an entire 30-lap event following right back here at Talladega to be able to maybe utilize this as a mulligan and get a little sweet redemption. Also should mention, as we already have been talking about the Dash for Dong drivers here tonight, whoever ends up winning this race and who ends up winning the second race here this evening will both be eligible, 2 of the eligible drivers, in the second race of the Dash for Dong, which will be later on near the end of this season. It has been also announced that if the same driver goes to victory lane in both of the dual races here tonight, then the second place finisher in race number 2 would then be the second eligible driver in the second Dash for Dong race. Well, there's definitely a few drivers you can visibly see that have taken on their faster pairs. One of them would be the 11 of Parker White, our pole sitter. I'm sorry, Benjamin White, rather. You see, that's a brand new front end on that race car. The left front damage that we saw in that middle stint green flag run has been completely repaired. It looks like maybe the 60 of Joey Chapman has used a faster pair. 56 of Blake Trawick looks like he's used a faster pair. So a lot of drivers here hoping that they keep it clean for these final 9 laps of this first dual race. It's going to be Ty Smith taking the bottom, Jacob Holm to his outside, Sebastian Miller, Chad Winstead, and Dylan Body going to be the top 5 as we get ready to go back green. 9 laps in regulation. Don't forget, we've got unlimited green-white checkers for overtime should we need them. And a little bit of strategy played there by the Mustangs that were on that outside line. Looked like they might have dragged the brake a little bit, let the top 2 get ahead, and slot down in 3rd and 4th, down to that inside line. So that will be Sebastian Miller now moving into P2, the highest that he's run so far here this evening. Still sporting the damage that he got all the way back on lap number 2 when he was involved in that parking lot on the apron on the inside of turn number 1. And you can see that looks like because of that damage, he's not able to really lead a line. That's almost like a parachute on the front end of his car as he falls back into the clutches of Jason Shuey on that inside line. 3 wide for the lead. Look at the 11 of Benjamin White trying to do it all by himself, but the middle line's where the momentum is. DJ Stagner, big push to Ty Smith. Middle line is surging forward. Joey Chapman, Robert Kenny, Shane Tyrion, all making their way up towards the front. And now Chapman is going to stay in that middle line. The Toyota Camrys are going to line up 1, 2, 3. The teammates are going to go for the race lead. Joey Chapman, who again, remember, was up at the front in a 3-wide situation back on the second lap, ended up getting loose, wrecked while in the lead at the time. He's now back up in front and looking to lead the remainder of this race. He'll tuck down in front of Ty Smith. Whoa, DJ Stagner, very loose, down on the apron. Nice save as they're going to hopefully let him back up. He'll find a way in front of Jason Shuey. That could have very easily been big one number 3 here tonight. Stagner going to pay the price for it, but at least it looks like we're not going to have any torn up race cars as of yet, as up at the front, lap led, I believe, to Joey Chapman, but momentum to the middle line. Robert Kenny, high, wide, and handsome. He's got help from a Camry. That's Brandon Lambert. And Bronson Stafford has made his way back up to the front now. He's the third car in that middle line. Third line trying to form. I believe that's Shane Tyrion and Robert Panko up there trying to make something happen. Stafford sees the momentum coming. He'll jump up to the third line as well. Looks like we've got roughly about 18 cars up in this lead pack. A couple of stragglers at the very tail end here. Blake Traywick back there, Dylan Body. Ooh, that's a lot of movement in the middle of this pack as we're 4 wide with Winstead, Rada, White, and Panko. Looks like White saw the situation and wisely backed out of it, but we, for a brief second there, past the start-finish line, we're 4 abreast at Talladega, which they can do, but there's not a whole lot of space available to be able to do it, especially in the corners. So they picked maybe one of the safest places on the track to do it, as how about this? Apron, that's Jacob Holm trying it. We're 4 wide again, and he wasn't clear on the 60 of Joey Chapman, and this is going to be maybe the biggest wreck we've had tonight. Cars sweeping up the banking, collecting up more innocent victims. About maybe a dozen drivers collected up here in the third caution of the night. We have not had a small wreck yet here this evening. They've all been corner wrecks, and Jacob Holm trying the apron on the back straightaway. No way he was going to be clear. Looked like he tried to merge himself up in front of Joey Chapman, and it, as you saw, had very catastrophic results. He had a huge shove from the 83 of Sebastian Miller. I'm not necessarily certain he wanted to go to the apron. I think he had to go to the apron to avoid running over Chapman, and as he tried making his way back up, you see our old friend Gapwack came into play. The 60 and the 76 make contact. It hooks the 76 up the racetrack, and nowhere really for anybody else behind to be able to go. A lot of drivers with a lot of damage sustained. Shane Tyrion was in that. Robert Panko was in that. To be honest, probably anybody that was running up inside of the top 15 got bits and pieces of that wreck. Drivers towards the rear of the field might have been able to get on the brakes and wait for everything, all the dust to settle ahead of them. As look at the shots taken here. Stagner, Miller, Traywick, Billman, Ramirez. Oh, big hit right there with his left front. There's Tyrion up on the top side of the racetrack. There's the 60 of Chapman. There's Panko, right side of your screen. I believe Ty Smith, yep, there he is down in the grass. Jason Shuey, it's hard to tell for him if he came to a stop or not on the apron, or if he got any contact out of that. Looked like the 31 maybe of Dylan Body might have snuck through there. At least with the camera shot we had there, it did not look like he had any contact made. This is on board with the 3 of Jason Shuey. He gives us a front row seat of everything happening up ahead. And yeah, kind of pulls a Dale Jr. from Daytona. Just comes to a stop, waits till everybody gets turned back around and continues on. Doesn't pick up positions, but at the same time keeps his car intact and doesn't have to rely on the faster pair. And that will be something we'll have to follow up here as well, because I'm sure a number of drivers from the last wreck took on faster pairs. Oh, Dylan Buddy almost got through without contact. Just got clipped in the left rear. But to be honest, with the damage sustained by a lot of the drivers involved in that wreck, that is merely a scratch on the 31 car, and a nice bit of dirt tracking there as he was drifting on the apron. Little Tokyo drift there for Dylan Body. able to keep that thing pointed in the right direction. Here's another look at it. Let's see who clips him. Oh, looks like it might have possibly been the 18 of Ty Smith just got him. Look at that. Kyle Busch would be proud. Dylan Body pulling the sub here tonight for the points leader, Dylan Poteet. Unlikely that Poteet is going to end up being the points leader at the conclusion of this evening heading into next week, but certainly not going to lose out on as many points as he would have if he had not had a sub driver. This is Matthew Rodriguez, another of the sub drivers tonight, doing a great job getting through that wreck as we went on board with his Hula Monkeys Motorsports number 72. Nice piece of driving there. And it's interesting because we've talked with drivers in the past here when we talk with them post-race about is it easier or is it harder to be a substitute driver running for somebody else's points than it is for your own points. And they say there's actually a lot more pressure because you've got somebody else that's expecting you to perform well rather than just yourself. Both Dylan Body and Matthew Rodriguez cool under pressure, making their way through that wreck, and at least for the moment, going to probably have some pretty good restarting track position here, as looks like we're going to get the one to green this time by, so we will not yet have to go into overtime. We're going to have an in regulation green white checkered, as wow, late call there from Mike Tellier, moving from top to bottom. So it looks like the first driver on the outside line is going to be the 61 of Bronson Stafford, as everybody else choosing where they want to be. Oh, correction, Stafford took the inside line, so it's actually pole sitter Benjamin White that'll be on the outside line. So teammates will line up 1, 2, 3 on the bottom with Kenny, Tellier, and Stafford. Right now, Toyota Camrys have swept the entire top 5. Highest running Ford would be Chad Winstead, who will restart in 7th, and highest Chevrolet, Cody Lamas, in his first start of the season in the 9th position. We've seen Cody in past seasons making his first start of season 5. Talked with Cody earlier on this afternoon. Big problem for him was connection issues in the past seasons. Looks like he's got that all sorted out and looking to see what he can do here in the second half of the 5th season of the UpperEdge Racing Baadteshop Super Speedway Series. So the question here is, can these drivers keep it together for one lap? That's all they've got to do. If they make it back to the white flag, then we race back to the checkers no matter what. But if the caution comes out before they come around to receive the white, we re-rack them, we do it again, and we go into overtime. Robert Kenny looking to become the 5th different winner on the season. Kenny comes into this race currently 11th in the point standing, 66 points out of the points lead. He has scored 3 top 10s in the first 4 races, but has yet to score a top 5. Might get his first with a victory here tonight. Benjamin White trying to do something that's very difficult to do at super speedways, and that is go coast to coast, pole to win. Trying to see if he can be the first driver to do that this season. And Mike Tellier, he's looking for doubles, as he's looking for his 2nd victory in a row, coming off the heels of that checkered flag he received at iRacing Superspeedway 1 week ago. There you saw the green flag displayed. Everybody gonna pick their lanes here, get these cars up to full song, figure out where the momentum is and what kind of moves they can make for the first checkered flag of the night. Down the back straightaway, wondered if anybody might utilize the apron here below the double yellow line. Maybe not here on the 2 to go, but more than likely we'll see it on the white flag lap. As look at the surge in that middle line. Benjamin White with help from Sean Billman and DJ Stagner. You got Mike Tellier a little loose on the bottom, might be trying to move up to stall out that momentum. Can they keep it together here through the tri-oval? The flagman has the white flag in hand, but he's also got the caution in his other hand. He may have to use it as there's contact there between Kenny and White, but they will get back to the stripe. White flag in the air. 1 lap to go here in the first of our Dega duels. Who's going to be the first one back to the checkers? All bets are off now for the teammates. Tellier, what does he do with Kenny? Stafford right there in 3rd. We know he won't be afraid to go down below the double yellow line. Middle line with a run. That's Shane Tyrion shoving Benjamin White. Third line trying to form with Billman and Stagner. White will get back alongside of Kenny. Can the tandem go up against the quartet on the inside line? Oh, the 11 got very loose. That's going to cause Shane Thierry to have to go to the top. Look at everyone scatter down there to the apron. We're 3 wide. We're 4 wide. Tellier is spinning. Stafford is spinning. Kenny trying to block Tyrion with a big run to the top side. It's going to be super close between the 9 and the 10. I believe it was Shane Tyrion in the number 9 that took the checkered flag. Less than half a car length. Got the momentum when he needed it the most through the center of the tri-oval. Going to the start finish line, and there you see it, 5/100ths of a second. Shane Tyrion becomes the 5th different winner on the season from the 21st position. Almost a dead even tie for second between Robert Kenny and Benjamin White. They'll give it to Kenny, but Shane Tyrion finally breaks back into victory lane. A driver that came into this race struggling in the point standings, 13th overall, 89 points back. This will for sure put him up in the conversation for the championship with 4 races remaining. As we're going to go back and take a look at everything that happened, you got to think the turning point was Tellier and Stafford getting together through the tri-oval, because that lost all the help on the bottom line for Robert Kenny. Watch right here. Is everybody going to utilize the apron to try and make moves through the tri-oval? Lambert down there, Winstead down there, Rodriguez down there. Looks like right here, the 97 of Tellier slides up, comes back down. He and Stafford get together, and there's nobody there. There's about 2 car lengths back to the next car for Robert Kenny for help with Brandon Lambert. He tries to move up to block Parker, I don't know why I keep saying Parker, Benjamin White in that middle groove. That stalls out the middle line, and on the top side, they were formed up enough that Billman in the 06 is able to push the 9 of Shane Tyrion to the line first. Super close even there for second place as you throw Billman into that conversation. Kenny, White, and Billman, a dead heat for the runner-up spot. Look at that here at the start-finish line. About almost a full car length, not quite. Shane Tyrion picking up this victory. Kenny in second, White in third, then Billman and Dylan Body with the fill-in duties tonight, completing the top 5. And that was just our first race of the night, folks. That's the appetizer. We got another 30-lapper coming up here in just a little bit, where we're going to have the exact same type of scenario and no doubt going to have the same type of thrilling finish. Here's another look at it. Watch that 9 of Shane Tyrion. He never faltered from the line that he was committed to. A lot of movement down below him and able to pick up that victory. That's almost eerily similar to what Mike Tellier was able to do last week when he made a move on the top side. Everything happened below him, and he was able to make it back to the start-finish line to pick up the checkered flag. But a great run there for Shane Tyrion. We saw here in the early stages of the season, it was Team Trap House that went to victory lane in back-to-back races with Blake Trawick and Dylan Poteet. But now you look at the last 2 races, and it has been the Toyotas that have shown, with Mike Tellier winning last week and Shane Tyrion picking up the victory here tonight. Well, what do we have in store in the upcoming second race here this evening? If this is any indication, you're not going to want to miss out on seeing what happens, as these drivers, some of them will be looking to continue on the momentum of the good finishes in this one, and others will be looking for a little bit of redemption of what could have been in this first race. I believe that the Dash Verdong winner, obviously Shane Tyrion, will be eligible for the upcoming second race in the Dash Verdong, but I believe that the Dash Verdong winner in this one, possibly Blake Trawick, because both Tellier and Stafford got together there through the tri-oval. I think Trawick may have passed them both. So Blake Trawick potentially may have just netted himself 1 million Vietnamese dong, which equals out to about $42.50 USD. So, congratulations to him. We're going to now take the opportunity dial up some of our podium finishers here tonight and get their opinions of what went down from turn 4 all the way through the tri-oval to the start finish line. Let's kick things off with the driver that brings it home in the third position. Let's dial up the driver, the number 11, Benjamin White. Benjamin, you got us up here in the FRM booth?
Yeah, yes, sir. How you doing?
Crazy race here tonight. You were in the conversation for the victory all night long, nabbed that pole position, top 5 running pretty much the entirety of this race, and up there at the end with a shot of winning this thing. You were the car in the middle through the tri-oval. You got drivers on your left and right side drafting you. What in that kind of a situation are you able to do to keep the momentum going forward, be that first one back to the line?
Well, I had no idea that the 10 and the 9 are actually teammates, so if I knew that, I knew I was screwed anyways, but everybody was crashing all around, especially on the bottom. I think it was Robert down there lost his help, and I thought maybe I could get second at the line, but he went down and blocked Dylan, so I had to settle for third. But I feel like the only thing I could have done is maybe checked up the middle a little bit just to not allow Shane to get clear, but I think Billman on the third lane was damaged, so I was kind of I mean, I was getting ready to be out to dry anyways off turn 4. So, had I known those 2 were teammates, I would have, maybe tried and play the lanes a little different, but there's not a whole lot you can do. But, a good fun race. I haven't, super speedway raced this specific, like, legacy car in a while, so it was something I had to get back used to. Usually, it's like the regular Xfinity car, the truck, or the, next gen that I always do super speedway racing with. So doing with this one was definitely something different, and I haven't done it in a while. So I mean, that was fun.
Yeah, we've been seeing double wide, three wide racing all night long, but we've seen a lot of movement out of these cars as well. Is it as difficult to drive these machines as it's visibly looking like? Because it looks like a lot of air movement has been taking place.
I don't know. I mean, I had damage before I got turned by Faust, so um, I don't know if that was making it drive any bit different. But I was a parachute lead, and I was when I jumped up in front of Holden, I was just hoping I'd get clear back down, which I was. And then I think the poked out front end with on Faust's car with the damage is why I went around because I looked back at the replay and I was fully clear. It was just weird, like neither of us really did anything wrong. But um, I wouldn't say that was harder to drive than any other car I've raced, but it was
Unusual.
definitely different.
Unusual situation here with the fact that it's not a one race and it's the end of the night. We got two dual races here this evening, another 30 lapper coming up in just a little bit. Any takeaways from the first race in terms of strategy, in terms of what you learned in the draft that you can then apply here, maybe do something a little bit different in the upcoming second duel?
I guess find out who's teammates and split them up, because had I been aware of the 9 and the 10 being teammates, that finish could have went a little differently. But overall, just that was a fun race. My first time running this league, so overall, was fun.
Well, definitely fun for us to be able to observe up here in the booth. You got another 30 lap shootout coming up here in just a little bit. Certainly, from what we saw here in this first duel, can expect to see this 11 up at the front in that one as well. Before we let you go get ready for that second race, we'll give you the opportunity to thank some sponsors and do some shoutouts.
I just want to thank Rodriguez for hosting and both of you two for broadcasting there. Jeff, I think, producer, and obviously Seth commentating. I've heard your commentary on NR 2003 throughout the years, and I did not know you did iRacing work, so that's cool.
Well, Benjamin White, going to look forward to seeing what you got here in this second duel. Best of luck. We'll let you get back at it.
I appreciate it.
Third place performance here. Close third place performance. Almost could have been second, maybe by another couple of centimeters. But second place is going to go to this driver. Let's dial up the number 10 of Robert Kenny. Hey, Robert, it's the guys up here in the F. Hey, Robert, you got us up here in the booth?
Yeah, I got you.
All right, I'll tell you what, man. That was super close coming to the line. It was a hold your breath, wait and see type of moment. You had that inside line advantage coming through the trioval, but then all of a sudden, your help was gone. So at that point, what were you able to do from your vantage point to be able to try and keep that second and third line at bay, make sure you were the first one back to the checkers?
Well, whatever I tried didn't work. But I tried moving up to the middle line in front of the 11, but I was a bit slow there. So he got to my quarter. So I went back down low. Then I saw whoever was pushing him had a run and was going to take it below the yellow. So I had to go down and block him to at least get some momentum from him. And it was just, I was also close to tying Mike for most wins in the series again, but he survives another race.
Very close. Going to be obviously a good points day for you in terms of this first race. You still got another race coming up here as well to be able to build off of. Is it easier or is it more difficult to have this good of a run come up just short and then have another race coming up? Does it motivate you more? Or if you maybe have a finish that's around fifth through 10th, is it more motivational to try and get that checkered flag in the second race?
Uh, I'm getting more motivation from trying to fix what I did last week instead of just taking the third or second and taking out a competitor, which I never want to do and you never want to do. But yeah, I'm taking that, trying to be cleaner towards the front. But finishing second in the first race definitely helps. Wanting to get one spot better in the next one. Uh, and it helps that the race is immediately after, not waiting a week.
You mentioned about being cleaner, and we ended up having three really big wrecks here tonight. And at least, just to my general memory, I don't remember you being involved in any of them, at least not significantly. So, able to keep your nose clean in this first one. Do you expect we're going to have more of the same, or are we going to see the aggressive level kicked up another notch here in this upcoming second race? I mean, mentally, what type of a race are you prepared for now after you guys have had 30 laps under your belt?
I'm kind of prepared for about the same. A little calmer first half, but once you realize, oh, this is a shorter race, we're getting down to the wire. You're going to have the adrenaline and the aggression ramp up a bit. So I'm kind of expecting the same amount of race, but hopefully we can get to the front again. And this next time, hopefully we can finish it out one position further.
Well, certainly something to build on. You came into this race 66 points out of the points lead with a top five run, your first top five on the season. So, congratulations on that. Certainly going to be now up in the championship conversation. And no doubt, if you can get that one position better, maybe up there in the top five, right with a shot of that points lead heading into next week. Robert, before we let you get back to it in preparation for the second race, the floor is yours for thank you, sponsors, and shout outs.
I just want to thank you guys for coming on, broadcasting every week. Admins for dealing with all this craziness week in and week out. Uh, Teammates and pseudo teammates for helping us throughout the race and every week with practice and drafting and all that. And then obviously Astro Gaming and Sim Speed Shop are always on the car. Uh, yeah, that's about it.
Well, Robert Kenny, second place here in the first of our duels at Dega. He'll look for that one position better. Hopefully, we talk to you in victory lane here in a little bit. Best of luck.
Yeah, hopefully I'll see you soon.
Robert Kenny bringing it home in the second position. And we're now going to go down to victory lane, see if we can dial up our fifth different winner on the season, Shane Tyrion. Shane, it's Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got me?
I got you.
I'll tell you what, we saw this number 9 charging up to the front there on that final run to the checkers. Right place, right time, third lane, the lane that got you this victory. A lot of stuff happening below you, a lot of stuff happening behind you. How nerve wracking is that? Because at that point in time, you're kind of dependent on your drafting help to get you back to the line in a three wide situation.
Yeah, it's definitely it's a little scary. Luckily, fortunately for me, I knew the first three cars there on the bottom. I was like, ah, they're fine. I'll just make my moves and see what happens. Ironically, Joey Chapman said over the radio to the team, he was like, "It's gonna be funny when Shane wins this race." When we came to the green, I was like, "Yeah, sure." Well, he called it.
Well, hopefully he'll call his shot again here in the closing stage of the upcoming second dual race. So you're going to be preparing for that in just a little bit. Going to be the defending winner with the victory here in this first dual race. So with this win under your belt, how much more added confidence, how much added aggression does it give you for the upcoming second 30 lapper?
I feel like it's gonna be crazier. People are gonna be more comfortable, so confidence might just still be the same, if not a little bit lower. But we'll see. I'm gonna try.
Saw three big wrecks in this one. Saw you swept up in one of them. Obviously, you guys have the Mulligan fast repair. With what you saw in this first race, how important is it going to be to preserve that for the later portions of this upcoming second duel?
Oh, yeah, definitely need to preserve it. I used mine that last wreck, and it paid off. So the longer you can keep that fast repair, the bigger your chances are.
Well, your second top 10 on the season, second top 5 as well. First trip to victory lane here in season 5. Congratulations on a job well done. We'll look to see if you can go back to back here and sweep the night here at Talladega. Before we let you get back to it, I know you have a bit of an expedited celebration there in victory lane before you have to climb back behind the wheel of this machine. So we won't keep you any longer. We'll let you do some thank you sponsors and shout outs.
Yeah, I'm just gonna thank Matt for putting this on, and then Matt Muir for painting my cars, you guys for broadcasting, and then I don't have it on the car because it's just a fun league, but Evil Controllers and Navy. So yeah, thank you.
Well, a thriller here in the first duel at Dega. Shane Tyrion, your winner here, and he'll look to follow it up in the upcoming second duel. Best of luck there. Hopefully, we get to talk to you again before the night's out.
I hope so.
Shane Tyrion becomes the 5th different winner on the season. It will be interesting to see where he would have been situated in the points after the conclusion of this one, but more than likely the points won't get calculated until after the second race here tonight as you're taking a look at your finishing results. A great run there for the 11 of Benjamin White starting in first and bringing it home in third. Robert Kenny with his best finish on the season in second, and of course Tyrion with the victory. Sean Billman played a big part into Tyrion being the first of the line there as he'll bring it home in fourth. And how about Dylan Body? We had that on board with him after that last wreck, able to just skirt through, able to drift it on the apron, brings it home in the substitute for Dylan Poteet in fifth. DJ Stagner there in sixth. How about Brandon Lambert? Good run for him here tonight. He's been close to a top 5 this season on numerous occasions, and I believe this might be his best finish on the year. Sebastian Miller bringing it home in 8th. First start of the season for Cody Lamas results in a 9th place performance, and Carl Faust, who was involved in the second big one of the evening after starting the outside of the front row, going to complete the top 10. I mentioned that I believed Blake Trawick was the winner of the Dash for Dong. There you see, he brings it home in the 15th position, so he is about $42.50 richer, and he is going to obviously, hopefully spend that very well. He's got Matthew Rodriguez, who finishes ahead of him in 11th. Another driver that did a great job in the substitute role for Matt Muir. Chad Winstead in 12th. Jacob Holm, who led a lot of laps in the early going, brings it home in 13th. Jason Shuey in 14th. Trawick, as we mentioned there, in 15th. Ty Smith and Connor Holden. We saw those two up at the front for a good portion of this race. Ty Smith actually was out in front for a number of laps, but they result in 16th and 17th. Cam Barnes, I don't think we really talked about that rookie at all here tonight, at least in this first race. He brings it home in 18th with Steve Rada in 19th, Roberto Ramirez in 20th. Both of those drivers, I believe, were dealing with damage they sustained in the second and third wrecks of the night. Dustin Longston brings it home in 21st, and there you see Tellier and Stafford, who both ended up getting involved in that incident through the tri-oval. They went from about 5th and 6th to 22nd and 23rd in the matter of a couple hundred feet. Robert Panko, Joey Chapman, Cole DeRosers, and Daniel Megason were the drivers that finished out the rest of the 27-car field. All those drivers that didn't get the best of runs here in the first race, they've got another 30-lapper coming up as Shane Tyrion wins the Fly Goose Fly 80. Coming up next is the Run Goose Run 80, another 30-lap dash at Talladega. That'll be coming up in just a few moments. These drivers have a little bit of a practice session, another group qualifying, and then we will resume coverage in preparation for the second duel at Talladega here on the YouTube side for Flatout Racing Network, the Twitch side for Split Second Broadcasting. Don't go anywhere. Coverage is going to continue from Talladega right after this.
Young, or am I faking? On the tip of my tongue, there's a sarcasm waiting for you. I'm willing to trade my soul for a bit of your charm. There's no way I fade into oblivion, 'cause I'll keep shining over you all. And if your wings entwining, you better face the fall, keep trying again. Oh yeah. Desperate people trying to get through the door, although the room's already crowded. But I'll keep shining over you all, and with your wings entwining, you better face the fall, keep trying again. Oh yeah, keep trying again. Zeros, everybody's trying to be heroes when all they have to say to be okay is I don't know. And keep trying again. I'll keep shining over you all with your wings entwining. You better face the fall. Zero. Everybody's trying to be heroes when all they have to say to be okay is I don't know. Are you okay? I'm not that sure.
Welcome back to our coverage from Talladega Superspeedway as drivers are back behind the wheel of their race cars in preparation for the second race of the night, the sixth race of the season for the UpperEdge Racing Baadteshop Superspeedway Series. If you're just joining us, we've already run a 30-lapper here at Talladega, the first of our Dega duels. It was Shane Tyrion who went to victory lane in the Fly Goose Fly 80. The Goose's wings were clipped, so now we're getting ready for the Run Goose Run 80, another 30-lap duel here at Talladega Superspeedway. With Tyrion winning, it now puts the streak of 5 races, 5 different drivers going to victory lane. As a matter of fact, Shane Tyrion's victory becomes the first for Hula Monkey Motorsports here this season. Team Trap House has had 2, and Sky Motorsports has had 2. First time that Toyota team breaks into victory circle. Will we have a 6th different winner here this evening in this final dual race? We of course ended up having in our first dual race as well the first Dash for Dong race. Blake Trawick finishing in the 15th position, netting himself a nice little purse. With Tyrion winning the first dual race, he is now locked into the next Dash for Dong race, and the winner of this race, not named Shane Tyrion, will end up being locked in as well. If Tyrion ends up sweeping the Dega duels here tonight, then the second place finisher of this upcoming event will be the next driver eligible. With 30 laps under their belt here, 3 big ones during the course of the first dual race, it will be interesting to see what the drivers' approach are for this second upcoming duel. We talked with our podium finishers before we took our little break, and a lot of them are expecting that we're going to see a lot more of the same and maybe a little bit more aggression here in this second race. Why? Well, as stated, they've already run 30 circuits here. They know what the cars can do. They know what is available to them in terms of momentum, in terms of runs, in terms of utilizing the draft. And they also know that that apron down below the yellow line is available to them to try and pick up spots, especially in the closing stages. We had about a half dozen drivers utilize that strategy, some to their benefit, some to their detriment, on the final lap of the first race. We managed to not go into overtime. We ran all 30 laps under regulation. Will we end up seeing our first overtime of the night here? We will have to wait and find out. Looks like these drivers here have gotten themselves gridded up in the second group qualifying session. Robert Pankow got the pole position for this one. We talked about it in the first dual race. He's doing the fill-in substitute duties for John Poole III here tonight. He'll be alongside of Joey Chapman. Chapman qualified well in the first dual race, but was involved in the first wreck of the night. We'll see if he gets a little better luck here in this one. Looks like row number 2 is going to be comprised of our winner from just a few moments ago, Shane Tyrion, looking for back-to-back victories and a sweep here in the Dega duels. He'll have Chad Winstead to his outside, and the driver that got the pole in the first dual race will roll off from the 5th position. That is Benjamin White, who brought it home in P3 in our first dual race. Now, a little bit of a development took place during our break as well. You're going to be seeing 2 number 31s on the racetrack. Now, originally, Dylan Poteet was not scheduled to be in either of the dual races, but he did make it home in time. He has climbed aboard one of the number 31 cars in this field. The other 31 car, who's rolling off from the 6th position, is still Dylan Body, who was going to fill in for Poteet for both races, but he only had to fill in for the first race, which he brought it home in 5th. Poteet will run for his own points here in dual race number 2 that is underway. Toyota's on the bottom, a Toyota and the Ford on the top. Pankow versus Chapman going into turn number 1. Look, we got a couple of other drivers as well that were not in the first dual race that are taking part in the second duel. One of them falling to the back there. Actually, that's the 7 of Cam Barnes, who was in the first duel, but we didn't see a whole lot of him. And it looks like we're not going to see a lot of him in the early going of this one, as he is looking like voluntarily dropping to the back. Scott Puckett, that bright yellow number 90, 5th on the inside line. We didn't see him in dual race number 1. And right behind him is the 35 of Sam Dyer, who we didn't see in the first dual race. Looks like we've increased the field size from dual 1 to dual 2, which means a lot more cars on the racetrack, a lot more points up for grabs, and more than likely a lot more cars that could get torn up if we end up having another big one. We had 3 of them during the course of the first 30-lap duel just moments ago. As inside line, middle line continuing dead even with Pankow and Chapman. Got a third line trying to form with 2 cars up there. That is Connor Holden and Carl Faust. Looked like Jacob Holm wanted to go up there. They had too much momentum for him to be able to tuck in line and lead the third lane. And now the middle line gets the momentum through the back straightaway as there's contact between Pankow and Dylan Body there going into turn 3. They both managed to save it. We avoid the caution at least for the moment, and the top 2 of Chapman and Winstead are going to open up a little bit of daylight with their tandem over third place on back. Look at the run there, though. They were too far out in front. Holm and White, they're going to tandem together. They're going to pull up to the outside. Faust is going to join them where the momentum is. And all of a sudden, what was looking like a good situation for the 60 and the 6 now puts them down as the proverbial sitting duck, or I guess in this case, the sitting goose, as they now are going to get freight trained on that middle groove. Here comes the 76 of Holm, who was very strong in the first dual race, led, I believe, the most laps in that one, before he eventually got shuffled to mid-pack and ultimately finished the race outside of the top 10, but looking strong again here in this second dual race as he's trying to clear for the top position. Inside line will not give up. Dead even through the tri-oval. Chapman on the bottom, Holm on the top. Still that outside line with Holden. Now Matthew Rodriguez, his wingman, trying to make something happen. They don't have the numbers. Speaking of numbers, looks like the field is broken up a bit. You've got about roughly 11 or 12 cars up in this lead group back to Sam Dyer, and then it looks like there's a number of drivers back here that are in ride mode, waiting to see what happens. We talked with, I believe it was Shane Tyrion, about the question of, do you want to, based off what you saw in the first race, really preserve that faster pair for the second half of this one? I think all those drivers that are running towards the back of the pack here, way away from the lead group, they're adopting that strategy. Keep those cars in one piece. Keep that faster pair in your hip pocket for later on in this race, because you're probably gonna need it. Looking back from the Team Trap House number 76, Ford Mustang of Jacob Holm, to the Toyota Camry of Joey Chapman, and you could just see the movement back and forth here For us visibly, you could see these cars weaving back and forth as the utilization of the draft, the side draft pulling a driver back, feeling the air on both your left and right side when you're that car that's stuck in the middle. We can visibly see it. The drivers, they feel it a little bit. For the most part, I think they've kind of gone numb in terms of feeling that sensation. It's now a normal for them. So we get nervous up here in the booth, but for them, it's just a normal Friday night, as there is one of the 31 cars, and he's going to get turned. Dylan Poteet in the 31 got hooked, and he's going to get popped in the air, nose grinding, and now on his roof. Oh, this is almost shades of last week for Dylan Poteet as he's back on his lid. This happened to him last week at iRacing Superspeedway where he had to call a tow. Looks like Matthew Rodriguez is going to try and get him turned back onto his wheels here. Also help from Steve Rada, so he doesn't have to take the tow. Can they get him turned up on his wheels before he ends up having to teleport back to pit road? Remember, Poteet is running for his own points here, and he came into this weekend as the points leader. I'm not sure they're going to be able to get that thing back on its wheels. Oh, maybe right there. Oh, nope, not quite. Rodriguez doing everything in his power to get that 31 turned back over. And it just looks like that it's at the wrong angle here. I don't think he's going to be able to. Poteet's going to have to call a tow. That's back-to-back weeks that the points leader has had something like that happen. Last week, he was sliding down the banking of iRacing Superspeedway on his roof and was not able to flip back over. Never was really able to get back into the conversation for the checkered flag. And now here, early issues for Poteet. I believe the contact began between him and the 90, Scott Puckett. Poteet getting hooked in the right rear quarter panel. Watch right here as Puckett gets a run. He jumps up to the outside, and as he made that move, looks like the back end of the car steps out on him. It directs him down into the right rear of Poteet, and then right here, you're going to see Dylan Poteet, after he hits the wall, right there, that slight bit of contact from Chad Winstead pops him up in the air, the splitter grinding on the racing surface, and right there, as the car comes down onto its roof, no momentum from side to side to allow him to flip back over, and it slides all the way towards the entrance of turn number 1, still on its lid. You saw the effort of Steve Rada and Matthew Rodriguez to try and get him turned back over, but Poteet unfortunately having to call the tow. Here's a look at it in real time as you see the 90 get really loose. A lot of other drivers collected up in this one. Rodriguez, Faust, Connor Holden as well. A lot of drivers able to just skirt their way through, avoid a lot of those drivers. A lot of racing surface down there on the apron heading into turn 1. A couple of drivers having to split the gap. Here's on board with the 72 of Matthew Rodriguez, who did a great job of getting through a big wreck in the first dual race, but right there just gets clipped in the right rear quarter panel by Carl Faust. Takes a shot right there as well into the right side of his machine, and we saw him then back it up to try and help Dylan Poteet, but unfortunately to no avail. Dylan Poteet with a case of deja vu from last week. Now, the good news for Poteet is the fact that it occurred very early on in this race. He may have enough time that even if he goes a lap down, he may have enough time to be able to catch a caution, get the lucky dog, be back in the lead lap. Boy, how about that? Nothing but pavement. And then the sparks from the roof flaps dragging, the roof rails dragging on the asphalt. What a helpless feeling as he ends up upside down on his roof waiting for assistance, which unfortunately didn't work out. But Poteet last week, the incident he was involved in was around 2/3 of the way through that race, so he didn't have nearly as much time to be able to get back up into the conversation for the race lead. Here in this one, yes, it's an expedited race. It's only about half the laps that we would normally run in a normal Talladega race. So there is less time available, but the fact that it occurred in the first third of this race still gives Dylan Poteet a shot of potentially getting back up into this conversation. But he will more than likely need the aid of a yellow to get back on the lead lap, as more than likely, especially in the area of the racetrack where his car came to rest, That's going to be one of the more lengthier tows. He wouldn't have had as long a tow if it had been over on the back straightaway or in 3 and 4, but being over in turn 1, much longer stay on pit road. There you see him, right side of the screen, still sitting in his stall, waiting to be released. This caution is roughly around the time that we had the second caution in duel number 1. It may very well have eliminated the conversation of whether these drivers would have been able to make it the full 30 scheduled laps on fuel. A lot of drivers coming down, topping off the fuel tank here. So more than likely, this caution kind of puts everybody in the window that they can make it the rest of the way. The only time they'd have to come to pit road from now to the checkers would be for damage repair, or maybe if you're at the back of the pack, you come down, top off again, maybe take on some tires to try and make some forward progress. This looks familiar. Jacob Halm, he was out in front for a restart back in duel number 1. He's back out in front again for another restart in duel number 2. He'll have Sebastian Miller to his outside. Dylan Body is going to line up in 3rd. Dustin Logston in 4th. Looks like Blake Trawick, who was the winner of the Dash for Dong back in the first duel race, is going to be the completion of the top 5. He's the highest running of our former winners so far. Documented the fact 5 different race winners in these first 5 races. Shane Tyrion the most recent. But now with Dylan Poteet in the field, we have 4 former winners that have a shot of maybe picking up their second win on the season, which would put them at the very top of the leaderboard for most wins in Season 5. Pace car will make the left-hand turn to pit road this time by Jacob Halm. Will complete lap number 9, put lap number 10 on the board, and we'll be back underway. Keep you updated on the 31 of Dylan Poteet and his situation. I believe he is still sitting on pit road, so he is definitely going to lose at least 1 lap. If he loses 2 laps, he's going to need multiple cautions to be able to get back on the lead lap. But still early on here in this second duel of the night, as Jacob Halm and Sebastian Miller, a Ford and a Toyota, going to bring us back down here into the Geico restart zone and get us back under green in the Run Goose Run 80. Middle line trying to get something going there. Sebastian Miller, Dustin Longston, DJ Stagner there as well in the 64. Looks like the inside line gets the early advantage on these restarts through 1 and 2, but then that middle line, as soon as they get formed up, they carry a lot of momentum off of turn 2 and down the back straightaway. Looks like inside line through the corners, middle line on the straights and through the tri-oval is where the momentum surges take place. And now we got a third line forming, a little bit of a 2-car tandem. That's Roberto Ramirez up there on the top with help from Sean Billman. Billman coming home in the 4th position in the first duel race. He was pretty much the deciding factor into who got back to the start-finish line first, pushing Shane Tyrion to the checkered flag in the first duel race, as we're on board with the Oquin Keystone Racing Machine, the 42 of Roberto Ramirez. And look at the run he's going to get off of turn number 2 and down the back straightaway. He may be clear for the lead by the time they get to turn 3. And indeed he is, and he'll now jump all the way from the 3rd lane down to the security of the double yellow line, the shortest way around the racetrack, right in front of the 83 of Sebastian Miller. 3 wide as well around the 3rd position, around the 7th position. How about stack them up 3 wide, 4 rows deep? Shane Tyrion's going to go up the middle and try and make it 4 wide. You think that victory earlier on tonight doesn't give him a little bit of confidence to make some moves? That's going to put him from about 12th place now up to 2nd. How about for the race lead? Not quite clear there on Sebastian Miller. They'll be 3 wide off of 2 with Tyrion in the middle, Miller on the bottom. Billman, who pushed Tyrion to the victory, high, wide, and handsome on the top. Looks like Tyrion's going to fade back, and Billman's going to get the push from Chapman. He's going to be clear for the race lead going into turn 3. Benjamin White, strong in the first race, brought it home in the 3rd position. He gets shuffled out all by himself up there on the top side, but was trying to make his way back up into the top 5, and Mike Tellier going to try and help him out. Inside line charging back again. Miller with help from Ramirez up against Chapman in the middle line pushing Sean Billman. Now Chapman moves up to the 3rd lane trying to pick up Shane Tyrion. Slide move to the top side there for Longston in the 33. These drivers slipping and sliding around, taking every run that they can. They don't want to have to lift. They want to keep the momentum moving forward. And a lot of drivers slicing and dicing up here inside of the top dozen or so. Much bigger lead pack than we had in the early going also. Remember, we ended up having about 12 drivers up in the lead group and then another dozen drivers that kind of were hanging back waiting to see what happened. Now as we near the halfway point, looks like everybody, since they now know they can make it on fuel, everybody wants to get into the conversation, up into the top 5, the top 10, and eventually up into the race lead as 3 wide behind Roberto Ramirez. Inside line still Miller. Middle line is Benjamin White. Billman on the top side with help from Carl Faust and Bronson Stafford. Saw there on the ticker, Dylan Poteet. He's back on the track, but he is 2 laps down. Situation would have been better for him had he been 1 lap down. He will have to rely on multiple yellow flags to get back on the lead lap, as that was very nearly the first yellow he needed. Jason Shuey in that middle groove pushing up, almost got into the driver's side door of Carl Faust in that number 3 machine. The bright red and orange, far cry from the blue 3 that we're used to seeing him drive. We saw him running that in the first dual race. Change of colors as well there for Mike Tellier. Saw him just shift from the top to the bottom. He's now in the Matt Muir Designs Toyota Camry. We saw him earlier in the Hello Kitty black and pink machine in dual race number 1. As Roberto Ramirez, how about the number 42 out in front and showing the way in this race? Roberto Ramirez not only trying to become the 6th different winner on the season, but he's looking for his first career win in the series overall. Got a number of drivers up here that are looking for that first victory of their Baadteshop Superspeedway Series career. Benjamin White made his series debut earlier on in the first dual race. Jacob Halm there in the 76, looking for his first victory. Same for Sebastian Miller. So a lot of potential first-timers here up at the front as we've just crossed the halfway point here in dual race number 2. These drivers here tonight looking to take a checkered flag at the 2nd longest super speedway that we run on the schedule. iRacing Superspeedway, the longest. These drivers next week, they'll be heading to the shortest super speedway on the schedule, as we'll be at the Atlanta Superspeedway, the 1.5-mile D-shaped reconfigured super speedway. We were originally supposed to be there last week, but instead its date got swapped with iRacing Superspeedway. It's bookending these Dega duels, so iRacing SS was last week, Atlanta next week, next Friday night. Who will be heading in as the defending winners, potentially? Shane Tyrion knows he'll be one of them. Will he be the only one is the question, or will there be another driver, a different driver that wins here this evening? Look at the momentum here with our shot on the back straightaway of the different lines. Inside line for a moment had the momentum, then the outside line, then the middle line pulls back up along even. Sometimes it doesn't even matter about the number of cars you have in your respective line. It just depends on a pusher, that second car in line, as to whether your lane is the lane that's going to be back to the start-finish line first. As right there on that top line, second car in line, that's Robert Kenny. He's looking for a little bit of redemption from the first dual race where he came up runner-up to Shane Tyrion. He wants that one position better. He wants to get to victory lane, and we heard him during the post-race interviews. Right now, he and Mike Tellier, they were heading into last week at iRacing Superspeedway tied for most victories overall in the Baadteshop Superspeedway Series. Now, with Mike Tellier's victory last week, Tellier stands alone in that category. Kenny wants to bring it back to a tie again. and he wants to do it here in this second dual race. Roberto Ramirez, Jacob Halm, kind of taking a page out of the book that Halm did back in the first dual race. Just keep it on the inside line, let everything happen in the middle and outside lines, just stay committed, and more often than not, it has worked out in their favor. Now Dylan Body with a big push to Benjamin White. Ooh, that was close right there as Body pushed up, almost got right reared by Sebastian Miller, who's up in that third lane with Sean Billman. A lot of movement out of that 31 car of Dylan Body. We documented about the fact that he finished 5th, substituting for Dylan Poteet in the first race. Poteet in the field here for the second race, so Dylan Body is not in a substitute capacity. He is running for his own points now here in this second dual race as he'll swing up to the outside line, pick up the 83 of Sebastian Miller, and he'll put the 11 of White in the middle line. DJ Stagner almost, I think, thought about sticking it up the middle 4 wide. And now, Body clearing the 11 will move back down to the middle. Miller will lead the top line, and Roberto Ramirez remains committed to that double yellow line. I believe at the very tail end of this pack is the 31 of Dylan Poteet. So the good news for him is he is at least up here in this lead group. If he was running by himself, it would be a greater chance of him going a third lap down. And he very nearly got the caution he was looking for, as a couple of cars in the wall, a couple of cars very loose there in the middle of this pack. But so far, so good. I don't dare talk about green flag runs, because the last time I did it back in the first dual race, they wrecked in the following corner. So I don't want to put the commentator's curse on these guys for a second dual race in a row. As middle line prevails this time, Benjamin White's going to lead the lap, but here comes Roberto Ramirez, who was committed to the inside line. Now he moves to the middle groove. He'll pick up DJ Stagner, and 5 rows of 3 wide through 1 and 2 as we are at the 10 to go mark. Dylan Body loose there off a turn 2 on the back straightaway, trying to stay locked to the bumper of the JBL Toyota Camry of Benjamin White. DJ Stagner, the drafting help for Roberto Ramirez, in the middle. And the outside line looks like they've lost their momentum. Sebastian Miller and Sean Billman, they do have some help up there in Cam Barnes and Dustin Longston, but it looked like they lost momentum through 3 and 4, now trying to gain it back on the front straightaway here back to the start-finish line. Big check up there. As you see from our aerial shot in that middle line going into turn 1, Kenny had to drag the brakes, so too did Carl Faust to avoid running over Connor Holden, the third car in that middle line. And now the middle and outside line through the straightaway start to make their way back up towards the front. 3 wide for the lead going into turn 3. It's like a slow car up ahead. That's Matthew Rodriguez in the 72, who had lost the lead pack, and now he's going to go a lap down. That's going to be even more of a difficult situation for Dylan Poteet, because if a caution comes out now... Oh, and that is the... Holy cow! Sebastian Miller just entered the stratosphere! And the caution is going to fly as we've got a big one going into turn 1. Sebastian Miller cleared all 4 stories of the catch fence and then some. How that car is still under power, I don't know. Look at this, the toe on the skew of the 12 of Carl Faust, as that thing is literally drifting back to the start-finish line. How that machine is still running, I do not know. There you see the suspension damage on Carl Faust, trying to nurse that thing back to pit road. And a number of drivers collected up in that one, but it started with Miller, and that happened so fast. I don't know if he got right reared and might have hit a potential glitch spot maybe in the outside safer barrier, but that thing got turned and then went straight up. That wasn't even a forward flip. That was literally a complete vertical flip for the 83 car. And again, as I said, with Matthew Rodriguez just then going a lap down, If he wasn't involved in the incident, Rodriguez gets the free pass and Poteet does not. He still would remain 2 laps down, and as we said, we're at less than 10 to go. Time has essentially run out for Poteet to be able to get back on the lead lap. Take a look at this. This happened so fast, so hopefully the slow motion cam will give us an idea of what happened. Contact there into Stagner. Looks like Miller thought he was clear up with Billman, and right there, yeah, I think what happens is the 83 catches the very start of the safer barrier heading into turn 1. That and a combination of the 06 of Billman kind of driving underneath his machine lifts the car up into the air. And that was maybe the highest flip we have seen this season. We've seen some high flips here in the past in the Baadteshop Superspeedway series. This may very well be the highest overall that we have ever seen in a race, regardless of what season and what racetrack. Look at this for Billman. Suddenly Miller is there, and then he's not. That's DeRosa right there in the 23 that got hooked up into the outside wall. A bunch of other drivers obviously caught up in this one, getting bits and pieces of the wreck. The main focus, of course, on the 83 of Sebastian Miller. But I believe Bronson Stafford, we saw him get a late hit in this wreck. Let's see who else was involved here. Cam Barnes, Blake Trawick, Jason Shuey, Ty Smith, Brandon Lambert got involved. There's the hit right there into Carl Faust, the late hit for Bronson Stafford. Bunch of drivers just trying to avoid that incident. I mean, where does a driver's mind go into where to avoid a car that flips straight up in the air? Then again, as well, Sean Billman involved. They had to avoid him. Carl Faust got hooked, so they had to avoid him. This is on board with Stafford, who gives us the look. Look at that. What goes through a driver's mind when they see a car go that high up into the air? Dustin Longston, saw him involved. I believe that I may have just seen the 35 of Sam Dyer down there near the inside wall, might have been involved in this one. Here's the 35s on board with Sam Dyer. Look at the height on that car. Oh, Sam actually looks like he avoided it all, pulled it right down there to the inside wall. Steve Rada, Dylan Poteet all do the same. So not involved in the wreck, able to avoid there was Sam Dyer in the 35. Here's on board with the Bass Bro Shops, number 3 of Jason Shuey. Whoa, you just see right up there on the top right, the car flying in the air. Oh, nowhere to go as Cam Barnes comes right down the track into Shuey's path. Big hit with the front end of that race car. Here's on board with rookie Cam Barnes. We didn't see much of him in the first duel. He was doing a great job up there in the latter half of the top 10 in this one. Just wrong place, wrong time. He was right behind Sean Billman. So that whole outside line checked up when the 06 went underneath the 83. Nowhere for them to go. Here's Blake Trawick, former winner on the season. Oh, he almost got through. Almost got through. Got clipped in the right rear quarter panel there by Cam Barnes, and then hooks the 23 of DeRosa up the track. DeRosa taking a pretty good shot front end into the outside safer barrier into the entrance of turn number 1. Well, a bunch of the drivers involved in that did have their faster pair available. You'd have to think that a majority of them would have taken it on right here and right now. As you see them doubled up, we're going to get the green with 4 laps to go. There's no guarantee that we're going to have extra laps of going into overtime. We ran the first dual race under regulation, made it back to the white flag. We did have the wreck coming back to the checkers, but we only had to run the 30 allotted regulated laps for that one, and we may do the same one here in this second dual race. How about Roberto Ramirez, though? This is, regardless of if he wins here tonight, this has got to be the best race we've seen him put together ever since he started his career here in the Baadteshop Superspeedway Series. He's been up front all night long, led a number of laps. When he's lost the lead, he's jumped up to the middle line to get the top spot back, and now he's hoping that he can lead final 4 circuits of the night as he elected the inside line. Benjamin White will line up to his outside, looking for his first win and only his 2nd career start. Dylan Body going to line up in 3rd. Robert Kenny, the runner-up from earlier on tonight in the first duel, lines up in 4th. And Jacob Holm is going to complete top 5. More than likely at this point, if we get a caution before the white flag, we will go into overtime as Roberto Ramirez gets us back under green. Maybe too good of a restart. We'll have to see what the 11 of White is able to do as he tucks down the inside line, looking to generate a run here out of 2 and onto the back straightaway. Double wide stacked up behind them with Kenny on the top and Body on the bottom. Body moves up, White moves up. A lot of blocking going on here off of turn 2. That's going to fan them out down the back straightaway. And White's going to have a big push from Robert Kenny and Joey Chapman in that middle lane. He'll clear for the top spot and jump down in front of the 42 of Ramirez. The good news for Sebastian Miller, the fact he was able to drive that car back to pit road. He didn't have to call a tow. He is still on the lead lap, took on his faster pair, so we may not have seen the last of him. Man, that was close right there, up inside of the top 5. Little uneven shove from Steve Rada to Robert Panko. Panko was a little squirrely there at the start-finish line, hangs onto it, 3rd car in that outside line, as Robert Kenny with teammate Joey Chapman trying to make something happen to get the race lead away from Benjamin White and Roberto Ramirez on the inside line. 3rd lane trying to form. That's Steve Rada leading the charge with Dylan Body and Connor Holden. More drivers now jumping up there. There goes Longston. There goes Chapman. Now the middle line loses their numbers and a little bit of momentum. That's going to help the inside line. Looks like Dylan Poteet's back on the lead lap in the 31 car. I believe that was Poteet. Oh, look out! Are they going to wreck? They're trying to save it, and they're going to go around. That was Shane Tyrion in the 9. Caution's going to wave. We didn't make it back to the white. We're going to re-rack them for overtime. The dual 1 winner, Shane Tyrion, goes around after contact between himself and I believe it was Connor Holden. I can't believe with all the carnage we've seen tonight, but that may have very well just been a solo car incident for the most part. And this caution will fortunately give us a little bit of time as well to kind of figure out if indeed what I saw was correct, if Poteet is back on the lead lap or if Dylan Body had just fallen towards the back end of the pack. But let's take a look at what brought the caution out. I'm getting the confirmation that Poteet is still 2 laps down, so it was the other 31 car of Dylan Body that I saw at the tail end of the pack, as actually Dylan Body right there, front and center involved in this one. Gets into Shane Tyrion, who then gets up into Steve Rada. And only the 9 is the one that goes around there into turn 1. So a 3-car incident. That is the smallest wreck we've had so far here tonight. But it involves the defending winner from the first Dega duel race earlier this evening, Shane Tyrion. Right there, you see the 31 gets loose, comes down into the 9. Man, Matthew Rodriguez narrowly avoided getting right-reared. And some damage as well on the right side for Steve Rada, who got put up into the wall when the 9 came up the racetrack. Looked like I was out of the tri-oval there for Dylan Body. That's about one of the worst areas for a driver in terms of their control of the race car. It's not a turn. It's not a straightaway. Back end of the car gets very, very light. It actually looks like right there, Steve Rada got into the wall and Dylan Body moved left with a run to avoid him. And unfortunately, the piece of real estate he needed to get to the inside of Steve Rada was already occupied by Shane Tyrion. Nice look there from that slow-mo cam to give us an idea of what Dylan Body was dealing with here. Here's another look at it. Yep, definitely the 17 pancaking the wall. That scrubs off a lot of speed, and with it being at that point 2 laps to go, you're not going to lift for that car up ahead of you. You're not going to check up for him. You're going to try and find a hole, keep your momentum going, keep that thing planted to the floor, and try and pick up that spot. And unfortunately, it just wasn't enough space for Dylan Body to be able to make that move, and Shane Tyrion pays the price for it. So it'll be the first time tonight that we're going to head into overtime for a green-white checkered. Another look here at the incident into turn 1. Doesn't look like really, really bad damage for Shane Tyrion. But you'd have to wonder if he does have a faster pair available, if he would take it on here, since we are pretty much in the closing stages of this race in preparation for what could be the only overtime restart. We've got multiple attempts if necessary, but we didn't need any in the first dual race, and this is the first time that we're heading into overtime here tonight. Taking a look back at the number 11 of Benjamin White, your current race leader, the pole sitter from the first dual race, brought it home podium in his first start. 3rd place. Qualified well for this one in 5th. And now trying to close out the deal in only his 2nd start for his first checkered flag, as we look back at the field here from the 2024 HMR Tamarin pace car. Should be choose cone this time by, and we will rack them up and get ready to go back green for what should be, looks like 35 laps at this point. And we may need more laps depending on if they can get back to the white flag waving or not. Track temperature has been constant all night long. Been at a constant 78 degrees. Much cooler temperatures than what these drivers have had to deal with in the last couple of weeks. And of course, as well, we've seen that translate to drivers' ability to push and tandem a lot longer this evening. That's why we've seen the double wide and, most importantly, 3 wide racing all the way through the pack, and really no lane be able to gain an advantage, because the 2nd, 3rd cars in line have the confidence that the engine's not going to overheat. They can keep those bumpers locked up together and keep that forward momentum moving. We're going to see a lot more pushing and probably a lot more shoving here in these closing stages, as we're going to get ready for our first attempt at a green-white checkered. With Shane Tyrion involved in that last incident, and the odds not necessarily in his favor of getting back up here to complete the Dega sweep, that means the odds are in favor of a second different driver locking themselves into the second Dash for Dong race coming up here later on this season. Tyrion locked himself in with the win earlier on. Another driver will join, and then I believe the winners from the next 2 races, or at least the 2nd place finishers if we end up having a repeat winner of Tyrion or the eventual winner of this race at Atlanta and Daytona, they will end up joining in the 4 drivers to battle in the 2nd and final Dash for Dong race in the season finale, with the championship hanging in the balance at iRacing Superspeedway. Well, we had ourselves an in-regulation green-white checkered back in the first dual race, and they were able to make it back around to the white. Now we have an overtime green-white checkered here in dual race number 2. Can they make it the 2.66 miles necessary to get back to the white flag? And we finish this thing with only 34 laps needed. Benjamin White, Jacob Holm the front row, Robert Kenny and Robert Pankow in row number 2. Then Joey Chapman, Roberto Ramirez, Cam Barnes, Chad Winstead, Cody Lamas up there inside of the top 10, with Brandon Lambert completing the top 10. Green flag in the air. Look at the movement around the 9th, 10th position. Up the middle goes DJ Stagner. He muscled Brandon Lambert out of the way to pick up that spot. Kenny to the top. Joey Chapman there to help with draft. Look at the run Jacob Holmes getting with Robert Pankow. He'll take it to the top 3 wide. Panko trying to side draft and pull Chapman back. Kenny is clear of all 3 lanes. 3 wide, 3 rows deep. Lot of movement in that middle line. Out of 4, try to make their way through the tri-oval and back to the white flag. Robert Kenny on the bottom. Chapman gonna have a big push here from Roberto Ramirez. Got about 13 cars up in this lead group, and they did make it back to the white flag. Now it's bring home the checkers or the steering wheel, and a lot of drivers up here in the conversation to extend the streak to 16 different drivers going to victory lane here. Chapman gets hooked up into the wall. Big wreck behind. 4 drivers get away, at least up here in this lead quartet. More wrecking in the back there. Faust into the wall. Winstead into him. Still at the front, Kenny with a rear deck lid full of the 11 of Benjamin White. Then it's Cam Barnes. Where did he come from? He's up to 3rd. Ramirez there in 4th. Lambert in 5th. They're going to try that apron through the tri-oval, I guarantee you. Top side goes White. 3 wide behind them. Ramirez, he goes to the apron. He's going to try for this win. 5 wide, look into the stripe. All right, it's going to be White who's going to win it on the top side with maybe a little bit of drafting help from Lambert. Benjamin White, only his 2nd start on the season, and he's got back-to-back podiums and a checkered flag in his 2nd start in the UpperEdge Racing Baadteshop Superspeedway Series. 2 positions up on where he finished in dual race number 1, and he becomes not only a first-time winner in his career in this series, but now extends the streak to 6 different drivers picking up checkered flags here in Season 5. Started 1st, finished 3rd in duel number 1. Started 5th, brings it home P1 here in duel race number 2. And not a scratch on that machine. Made the moves necessary. Was able to keep them at bay this time. He was leading them coming out of turn 4 on the white flag lap back in duel number 1, but was unable to hold off the teammates. This time, learned from the mistakes in duel number 1, and as soon as I say there's not a mark on that car, he ruffles up the left rear quarter panel in his celebration, but that's okay. Benjamin White bursting on the scene here. Took him only 2 races and 1 evening in the series to bring it home with the checkered flag, and has 2 podium finishes to his name. Oh, yeah, there you go. Have the right side match the left side on the rear of that machine. Benjamin White, unbelievable display here this evening. Bringing it home with the checkered flag. Another close finish here. This time they weren't 3 wide coming to the line. They were 4 and 5 wide coming back to the start finish line. But Benjamin White able to hold them all off to pick up this victory. Let's take another look at what happened in the closing stages. Joey Chapman going to get a bump right there from Roberto Ramirez. That kind of split the field up. You only had about 4 cars up in this lead group. And watch the move that Benjamin White is able to put on Robert Kenny here. He knows that the 10 is all by himself now. He had the 60 as a drafting partner. He knew he had to break up the teammates after what happened to him in duel number 1. And when he makes the move this time, he's going to have the drafting help. Cam Barnes is going to go up there with him. Gives him the draft that he needs through the tri-oval. Then when Ramirez goes down to the bottom and Barnes tries to shoot the gap up the middle, that shove right there, that little last-minute shove from Brandon Lambert could have been the difference maker into White getting back to the start-finish line. Otherwise, it could have very well been Kenny or Ramirez that took this thing. Second time as well here in as many races at Talladega that the car on the outside line wins the battle back to the start-finish line. Shane Tyrion was the outside line car in duel 1. He was the first one back to the stripe. And White was the outside line car here in the second duel race. And he's the first one back to the checkered flag. There's a look at how close it was. Cam Barnes just barely going to edge out Roberto Ramirez for his first podium finish of the season, and a career day for Roberto Ramirez. Led a good portion of this race, and he'll get his first podium of the season as well. Well, what an incredible duo of finishes we were treated to here tonight. And it's time to get the driver's point of view coming through the tri-oval back to that checkered flag and all the calamity that occurred here during this final green-white checkered. Let's see if we can dial up the guy that brought it home in third place here this evening, the driver of the number 42, Roberto Ramirez. Hey, Roberto, it's the guys up here in the FRM booth. You got a copy?
Yes, sir.
I'll tell you what, career night for you. Front all night long in the conversation for this victory. We knew somebody was going to try that dive down to the apron there, coming to the start finish line. You almost pulled it off, had a lot of momentum there through the tri-oval. Was there anything else you could have done, or was that the move right there?
I think that was, in that situation, it's pretty much the only shot I had. I honestly didn't even remember it was in play until like right as I was doing it. So I think maybe if I had realized it earlier and been able to plan a little bit better, could have had a better shot at working, but they just had too much help, too much of a run on the outside, and were able to clear. Sorry to the 60 car and everyone that got caught up in the last lap wreck. I knew I know it's always sketchy with these cars trying to push in the corners or just push in general, but it's the last lap, so just had to try and help him, try and get him out front because that gave me the best chance, and unfortunately got him turned. So sorry to everyone that got caught up in that.
We haven't made all the starts here this season. 2 starts coming into tonight. No top 5s, no top 10s, but now you're going to be putting numbers in those columns. Was there any benefit from the first Dega duel that we had earlier on, of the stuff you were able to learn to apply to this second duel and be able to net the good finish?
Yeah, I think the biggest benefit for me in the second race was that I didn't get caught up in a wreck. The first Dega race I think it was the first race this season. I got caught up in a wreck early in that one, and it put me in a bad spot with fast repairs. Same thing happened in the first Dega race tonight. So both races that I've run at Dega this season previously, I got caught up in an early wreck, and it kind of put me in a bad spot. But I think just having my fast repair in the bank the whole race allowed me to go for it, and I learned a lot racing up front the whole race. So yeah, I think just having a clean car and clean race was super beneficial because it allowed me to actually be able to give full effort without worrying about what if I get in a wreck, and like what if, because in the first race I used up my fast repair early and got in the big one with like 10 to go, and I had no shot at the end. So yeah, that's
Well,
about it.
kept the car clean, kept it up front all night long. Had to pass a lot of cars to get to that point after starting back in the 24th position. Congratulations on a job well done. Arguably best performance of the season for this number 42 machine. Obviously, hopefully brings a lot of good momentum here down the home stretch, the remainder of the season for you. Before we let you get back to your celebrating here of your podium tonight, the floor is yours for thank you, sponsors, and shoutouts.
Yeah, I just want to thank everyone for putting on the series, Dylan Body for sponsoring it, Matt Rod, and everyone who's involved in running it. Always fun to run these races when I get a chance.
Roberto Ramirez, third place here this evening in the second of the Dega duels. Congratulations on the great performance, and best of luck here for the remainder of the schedule.
Yep, thank you guys, and thank you for the broadcast.
Roberto Ramirez there, and I'm pretty sure I'm saying this right. I believe it's the Fraternity of the Order of Eagles, sponsor that has gone to victory lane in the past in actual NASCAR at Daytona with Justin Haley. Granted, it was a rain-shortened race, but nonetheless, and he brings that sponsored machine home third place here tonight. How about a driver we didn't talk about hardly at all in the first dual race, and he brings it home second place here tonight. Rookie driver Cam Barnes. Let's see if we can dial him up. Cam, the guy's up here in the FRN booth. You got us?
I got you.
Wow. really a non-factor back in duel number one. But here, front and center, a shot at winning this race here in duel number two. First off, I got to ask you, in that moment off of turn four, it didn't really look like there was anywhere for you to be able to go, but you were able to somehow shoot the gap up the middle in what was at the time a four wide situation. At that moment, with the momentum, did you think this is it? I'm going to be the first one back, get that checkered flag.
No, unfortunately not. The reason why is the 47 or 46 car came out from out of nowhere. Really had the run on all of us, and Ben was able to just kind of shade the block a little bit and get that final push he needed. If he doesn't get that, and we try to go five wide there, there's a possibility I have the run with the 42 and the 10 racing really hard there on the inside. Um, I was just not lifting there. If anything happened, it happened at that point. Just gonna see what happened. I saw the 11 start to move up. The 10 was kind of trying to squeeze the 42 down to the yellow line. There was this perfect seven-sized hole right there, so I decided I'm gonna go for it and see what happens. And luckily, it's my best finish so far of the season. So yeah, that's really good. And then duel one just did not go the way I was hoping. I was hoping for a lot more calamity like in this race, and it didn't work out. So I changed up my strategy mid race in this one, and it somehow worked this time. So I don't know. I still don't know how to race these things. I still don't know how to win against these guys, but hopefully we'll figure it out soon.
Well, definitely best performance of the season so far for you, part of that rookie class. We're riding on board with your car here in that final green white checkered. Everything happens above you going into turn one on that white flag lap. So you're one of about four survivors off of turn two. With the way that these cars are, the drafting we see them be able to have, the runs they're able to generate, with being in just a pack of four, is there something that you're able to do yourself to be able to generate a run and make a move? Or do you actually have to have the usual three, four cars behind you to generate the energy to have forward momentum and make moves?
Yeah, you can do a little bit with these cars if you kind of just lay back just a little bit. Uh, if they're still wide open here and like the 10 and 11 were on the edge of the corner still trying to push each other, sometimes they can check each other up and you can get a massive headwind down there uh towards the tri-oval, and that's what I was hoping for. And luckily they got side by side slowing each other up even more, and then all hell broke loose coming to the line, so I was able to squeak my way through. But in that moment, really just kind of hoping to see what happens. I was talking with Ben the whole night, so I was able to, kind of know what he was doing. So we try to make sure we could, finish well here. So I was going to push him. Then he gives me the hole, and I'm like, well, I might as well take it. So, yeah, it's very hard when you're that one car and there's two cars in front of you to make the right move. With Roberto behind you, he who just kind of, you don't know how he's feeling since the wreck happened literally right in front of him. So you don't know what he's going through there. You don't know if he's out for blood even more or what. So just kind of hoping there. And if I would have seen the 46 coming, maybe I could have gotten a run there, maybe try to win the race from him. But I was just more focused on the guys in front of me and just kind of praying and hoping I saw the checkered flag and not the inside wall. So.
Well, you bring it home in the second position here tonight. A great run for you. Been doing well in that rookie class battle as well. Got some pretty stout names in there. Pretty cool to see you bring it home on the podium here tonight. Not many people know, but Cam and I actually shared the track on the Air 2003 side back in the day. So
Oh
congratulations on
yeah.
the great run there, Cam. And before we let you go, the floor is yours to thank some sponsors, do some shout outs.
Shout out to John Peterson, who is technically the team owner, even though he doesn't really race half the time. But I'll hold down the camp for him. And then just shout out to you guys for doing this, and shout out to all the people who race these things. They're a lot of fun. Haven't figured it out yet, but hopefully I'll be able to talk to you guys as the winner instead of second place, because second does suck a little bit. So also a good shout out for the NR folks. If any of you NR folks still out there, iRacing now is becoming more and more worth it. So just try to gravitate over there and you could make it just on the big screen.
Well, Cam Barnes, second place here tonight in the second of the Dega duels. Congratulations on the great run. Hopefully, this is a sign of continuation of good things to come here down the home stretch of the schedule.
I hope so too, Seth. I hope so too. I hope I get to talk to you guys a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. Cam Barnes, your second place finisher here tonight in the second dual race at Talladega. Two top tens coming into this race, but nets his first top five of his career. And a driver that came into this race with absolutely no stats, but now is going to leave Talladega as a two-time podium finisher and a race winner, is down in victory lane. Let's see if we could dial up Benjamin White. Benjamin, is the guys up here in the FRM booth again. You got us?
Yep, good to be talking to y'all another time tonight here.
Yeah, we talked to you as the third place finisher back in the first dual race, and one of the key things you talked about was making sure you split the teammates up. You had the 10 up there, you had the 60 up there, you had teammates there that you had to work against, kind of the same scenario as the first dual race, but this time looked like you kind of learned a little bit of a trick from that first dual race and were able to break them up.
I mean, I wouldn't say I was able to break him up. Roberto kind of, I think he was indecisive where he wanted to go, and he clipped the 60 and turned him into the wall. Had that not happened, I was boxed in, and so I was just committed to push Robert Kenny there to the win because I'm not going to take it under the yellow. Like I know it's legal from what I heard, but that all that's going to do is cost us both positions, especially if it's a tribal. So at that point, I knew I was going to be boxed in. Had something not happen on the outside. Luckily, some things happened on the outside, turned it into a single file race, and then out of four there, I had Cam Barnes, who I run in another league with, um, right behind me, and he went with me there out of four. Uh, Robert was doing a good job of mirror driving, but I was barely able to get to the outside there, and from there it was just playing the lines and finally the block out of the tri-oval there on Lambert. I felt was really close, but it was my only chance of holding Cam off right there, which was able to do. So very, very, very fun racing tonight.
Well, we had a three wide finish to cap off the first dual race earlier on this evening. Got treated to another three wide here in the second dual race, but for a point, you guys were four wide and almost even five wide through the triangle coming back to the start finish line. How much visibility do you have to be able to make moves, throw blocks, figure out where the momentum is when you've got so many different drivers being able to utilize all those different lanes to ensure that you're going to be the first one back to the checkered flag?
Well, I'd say I could definitely see more on my right than my left. And thankfully, the momentum was on the right side, and I was able to block that. That was pretty much the only thing I could do in that situation. Because if I turn down any bit, I'm probably going to uh, hit Kenny off the track. And if I hold my line, I'm just giving myself a better chance. And then I saw the Red Bull car go up high, and that was the main block I had to make there coming to the line. And luckily was able to do it.
Well, an incredible career start for you here in the Baadteshop Superspeedway Series. Two starts here tonight, two podium finishes, and a checkered flag. You sound relatively calm for a driver that was in some very perilous situations in the closing stages of both races. I mean, what is the adrenaline level when you're in a green white checkered with all the different facets of this type of racing? We know that these cars are very capable of pushing, of being able to generate runs by themselves. Of course, there's the no yellow line rule that has to take into account. So, I mean, how mentally taxing, how physically taxing is it for a driver in that kind of a situation? Because you had to deal with it twice tonight.
Well, I've ran a lot of super speedway leagues in my time on this game, so over time the adrenaline got less. But I mean, still, when you're in the lead on a green white checkered, you know you have a chance, major chance at the win, and so it's just making sure you do all of the right things to put yourself in a position. Unfortunately, I was trying to um, make sure the 10 and the 60 didn't get clear there on the restart. But as soon as they did, because I was informed those were also teammates on the green white checkered there, I was hoping both of them wouldn't get clear. But then as soon as I heard, oh, they're both clear, I knew I had to run them up the track a little bit off two when they make the move there, but then just pull back down and try and get a push. And luckily, only one of them was able to get clear, which meant I wasn't fully boxed in. Like maybe I could push Kenny clear or whatever the deal was. But then I knew once we went to turn 1 on the white flag that I was going to be boxed in for the rest of the race. So uh, luckily things happened that was able to put me in a better chance to win. But I kind of feel bad for Robert there because I felt like him and the 60 played it perfectly, and one of those two at least was going to win the race. I was going to stay committed to him. Who knows what would have happened there on the outside, though.
Well, an incredible debut for you here tonight, Benjamin. Back-to-back podiums in victory lane here at the conclusion of dual race number 2. Congratulations on the job well done overall here tonight. Before we let you go and get back to your celebrating, the floor is yours for victory lane. Thank you, sponsors and shoutouts.
I just appreciate, again, Matthew Rodriguez for hosting the league, letting me in here. I don't really have a whole lot of leagues to race anymore, so I got a reference from Barnes for this league, and it definitely was fun. I also appreciate you and Jeff for the broadcast. Ready to watch it back in a couple hours here, but yeah, just everybody involved, all the drivers for a clean race. Appreciate the congratulations, all that. So yeah, that's about it.
Benjamin White, he's your 6th different winner on the season as he takes the checkered flag here tonight in the second of the Dega Duels, the winner of the Run Goose Run 80. Congratulations on the job well done there, Benjamin. Certainly an incredible first couple of races to start out here. Looking forward to seeing what you're able to do down the home stretch of this schedule.
Appreciate it. Y'all have a good one.
Benjamin White with back-to-back podium finishes, and that means, folks, that more than likely he's going to be up there in the conversation for this championship as early as next week. The way that these points work, they reward you for good finishes and, most importantly, for victories. I know he's only made 2 starts, but we've seen drivers on a half schedule. As long as they finish well, they can be up there with drivers that have run the entire full schedule, and they still have a shot at the championship. Here's a look at your finishing results. Benjamin White with the victory, following up his 3rd place in Duel 1. How about Cam Barnes? Great run for him in 2nd. Roberto Ramirez in 3rd. Career finishes for both of those drivers. Best finish as well for Brandon Lambert of his career as he'll bring it home P4. Robert Kenny back-to-back top 5s this evening in both the dual races as he will complete the top 5. Connor Holden brings it home 6th. Sean Billman going to finish in back-to-back top 10s. Had a 4th place run in Duel 1, 7th here in Duel 2. Dustin Longston brings it home in 8th. Sebastian Miller, folks. Do you remember that car that visited planet Jupiter back in the middle portion of this race? Yeah. 9th place, he brings it back to finish in the top 10. And Shane Tyrion, who was involved in the caution that set us up for the overtime green-white checkered, he brings it home in the 10th position off the heels of his victory back in duel number 1. So some great comeback runs right there. Scott Puckett going to bring it home in his first start in the 11th spot. Mike Tellier in 12th. Cody Lamas in 13th. Jason Shuey going to be 14th. And Matthew Rodriguez will finish out the day in 15th place. Chad Winstead, Robert Panko, Sam Dyer, Bronson Stafford, and Steve Rada, the top 20. Back-to-back pretty poor performances there for the 61 of Bronson Stafford. We'll have to see where this positions him points-wise. Blake Trawick, who won the Dash for Dong last dual race, going to finish in 21st here in this one. He was one of the drivers that could have capitalized on the Dylan Poteet issues, but he may not get the points lead depending on how things shake out. Joey Chapman, 22nd. Carl Faust in 23rd. DJ Stagner, who we saw there during those post-race replays, took that big shot into the inside wall on the final lap. Brings home in 24th. Cole DeRosers in 25th. Jacob Halm, another tough break for him. Had a strong car here this evening. Was up in the top 5 for most of the 2/3 of this race. He suffers a 26th place finish. Ty Smith in 27th. Dylan Poteet. Back-to-back weeks. iRacing Superspeedway last week. This week, upside down on his roof, had to call a tow, fell off the lead lap, never got back in the conversation. We're going to have to see where this situates him. Dylan Body, who did the fill-in driving for him in the first dual race, netted him a top 5, finishes just ahead of him. They were the last 2 drivers scored in this one. But 2 races in the books, 6 different winners on the season, and Toyota extends their winning streak to 3 straight races. Tellier last week at iRacing Superspeedway, and tonight it's Shane Tyrion in dual race number 1. and Benjamin White in dual race number 2. Next week, these drivers pack it up and they head to Atlanta, Georgia in preparation for the shortest Superspeedway on the season, as we're at the Atlanta Superspeedway. Gonna set up the stage for Daytona and iRacing Superspeedway. We're in the home stretch towards the championship. Couple of drivers may have put themselves right in the forefront of the conversation for said championship here tonight. We'll have to wait and see how it all shakes out. Congratulations to Shane Tyrion on the victory in the Fly Goose Fly 80 earlier on, and to Benjamin White in only his second start, the winner of the Run Goose Run 80, the second of our Dega duels. Big thank you to Jeff Johnson for his hard work in the producing role. The shots that he gave us here tonight, exceptional. And I've been Seth Cole. Thanks for joining us here this evening. We'll see you guys next Friday night on the Twitch side at Split Second Broadcasting, on the YouTube side on the Flatout Racing Network, as we continue on the schedule here for the UpperEdge Racing Baadteshop Superspeedway Series. Until 8:30 next Friday night, enjoy the rest of your week, folks. We'll see you guys next time.